Is there any info that goes into ATR? I hear you guys talk about that a lot, but I'm not familiar with it. I'd love to learn more. This group rocks, by the way. I love that. Thank you. You're my favorite person of the day. How much would I need to deposit to make 7 figures on Dragonfly? A year? Oh, I would have to pull up a different spreadsheet, but I can. So wait, 7 figures in a year or 7 figures over the course of like 5 years? Because I can tell you with like 50 grand, well, I'm gonna round that 50 grand from the forecasting, meaning forecast means the current results it's achieved thus far. 50 grand is what, $1 million in 3.5, 4 or 5 years, give or take, depending on performance, right? To hit $1 million this year, you would likely need somewhere in the window of $200,000, and that would be pushed. Well, because remember, they're also going to lower your leverage anything above certain amounts on certain brokers. So if I had to guess, $150,000 to $250,000 to make $1 million in profit at the end of the year, because you're also not splitting any performance fees or anything like that with anybody. So you could turn it up a little bit, but I'm also not counting off-risk capital. So I'm pretty big on having off-risk capital. I kind of got over my ego or my need to, my people pleasing. Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent. Squirrel. But I saw this video. It's like the people pleasers, you're pretty much telling people that you can't trust them with the truth. Like, it was pretty deep. So needless to say, in a spirit of good business practices, you need off-risk capital. And that doesn't need to be a turnoff. And in my opinion, it shouldn't be a turnoff, because even McDonald's, in order to own one, you need to have one, right? If you go buy into the Chick-fil-A franchise, you need to have $250,000 up front, or I guess Chick-fil-A is a little bit different, but let's just say another franchise, you need $250,000 up front, and typically speaking, you need $250,000 or $500,000 in off-risk capital. Just to give you an idea, like, this is real, true, tried and true business practices across the board. It's not Jenny's opinion. So we have a system that will literally quadruple anything you're seeing in the gains for cryptos and QQQ, and definitely the S&P 500, and definitely your 401ks. You can 10x most of that stuff, okay? And it works, and it's possible, but there are some human actions to make a few times a year. We can't control that. And having some amount of off-risk capital and an investor's mindset is possible. Like, it's not possible, but it's required. You've got to do that. But to give you an idea, the math in my head is 20,000 in, you're pretty much making $5,000 to $10,000 a month, depending on whether or not you're choosing to take all the original investment out, okay? Or if you're planning on keeping it in and just turning it down. But basically 90 days to 6 months. So 3 to 6 months to being able to live off of 5 to 10 grand a month. And I'm talking, notice how I'm lowballing that. But we're talking printing money, you guys. So if we got a plan for taxes and everything else, like, that's the things that we're writing in these little webinar classes we're doing about once a week, once every 2 weeks, for the foreseeable future, just kind of helping people get through. That's going to be a whole course load in there that just says, let's talk money. Like, let's be practical. Let's talk about the good, the bad, and the real expectations and how to get there. And yes, there are some people turning it up. They're making a killing. They're playing with crypto and indices and gold. A lot of risk, a lot of reward, okay? It's only going to take one time for that to go against them. But either way, even those, there are people who are willing to fail. So we've seen stuff like this. We'll show it here. I'm going to say a 30% accuracy, 20% accuracy, but you're doing an 11 to 1. Okay, 20% accuracy. I might have to make that 25 just to make the numbers pick up, just so you guys can see what that looks like. That's wild, right? What's that? I can't even count that high. 125,000. Like, this is possible, okay? Even for the people who are like going, all in, you technically can do that, but you have to be prepared to fail 9 times out of 10 in that process in order to get to the time. This is, to me, a fail too, but I broke it to get to this. So if you failed at this 10 times, the cost is 10,000. Okay. That's the whole point. So hopefully that helps a little bit. All right. Back to business as usual. We're going to put this at 63. That's insane. Win rate, 7%. Okay, I got it back to fix.